2023 was the worst year for gaming. If all you played was Madden 24, I mean, come on, like, broaden your horizons, man.
I played quite nearly every single game released in 2023 that I've come across. That's still an impressive line of games that I played considering the amount of time and content I had to experience to make the best list into a top 20 instead of the usual top 10. 2023 legitimately is a good year for gaming, but there's still some stinkers.
And that was the time I decided to make a worst list. It was very easy to do so considering how I played over like 70 games. But man, when was the last time I did a worst list of anything? What was it, like 2015? That was like 7 years ago, my god.
Now, I didn't actively go out of my way to play the worst of the worst, so don't expect some easy picks that the media outlet will put on their worst list. Skull Island, Rise of the Kong, Blood Bowl 3, Golem. Yeah, I didn't play these games at the time I scripted these, so don't expect them on the list. This is more of a personal list, so all opinions are my own, and if you disagree with them, you are free to do so. I ain't gonna judge why you think Neptunia is Game of the Year material. I'll just silently judge. That said, there's at least one game on this list that I didn't actually play, but was so awful, I still had to include it on the list anyways. I'm breaking this one rule just because the game is just that bad. You'll know what the game is when I credit the third-party content creator for the footage during that segment.
I'd say you guys know what it is. But boy, are you gonna be shocked if you don't know what it actually is.
And if I have to be honest, I only truly hated probably like 5 or 7 of these games. And I could have made this a top 10 instead, but to balance out the 20 best games, I felt like I needed to talk 20 bad games, or at the very least, disappointing games. Because the next 10 following games can be enjoyed, it just didn't either catch my attention or require some more development time to truly make it shine. So the earlier sections of this list, don't think there's no salvaging it. The lower ends are at the very least 6 out of 10 material.
And I want to do a quick disclaimer. Half of these lists can be enjoyed. Alright, hopefully that's gonna alleviate some of the hate I'm getting. In the case where you guys do agree with me and also dislike these games too, oh boy, thankfully I've covered my bases. You can have a lot of fun with these games, and some games might actually be more deserving of the worst of 2023. I just didn't play enough actual bad games to make this a more accurate list, so please don't take me putting your favorite game on the list as an attack. It just needs a little more spice inside the oven to make the meat more delicious. Other than that, the American release rule, the remake rule, that still applies similarly to the best list as well, although to be fair, I think there's only like one remake in this list. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into the number 20th spot, which thankfully is an Xbox Game Pass game, so I could get it for free without shelving 70 bucks for it. Damn it!
As Starfield, the so-called Xbox game changer for the system, the absolute only reason to own an Xbox, game of the century, cries out all the Xbox fanboys who finally quenched their thirst of water, despite Hi-Fi Rush being only 2 blocks down the street. And the fact that Starfield's water supply is empty, despite being stored in a septic tank. This game is expansive. It's filled with tons of side quests, character interactions, and resource management that is bloated to pieces. Oh sure, I've had some enjoyment with it. I dare even say if this is your only method of entertainment, this will probably satisfy you. Just like how being in a white void will eventually make you appreciate the monotone shade of white. I did not like this game enough. It's just too boring. The character interactions with your crewmate is just fine. Just fine. Nothing outstanding or game-changing. There are cool peeps, but aside from this robot companion who legitimately is my favorite crew member, they don't stand out to me in terms of personality at all. The worst thing about this game is just how much it makes older Bethesda titles feel. I seriously cannot play Skyrim anymore without making it feel outdated, despite being one of the most phenomenal games that I played during that year. I swear, this game has brainwashed me somehow. I used to love the crap out of Skyrim and Fallout, and now that I play Starfield, oh my god, everything just feels dated. Nothing feels more disappointing than getting bored of a game with so much content. Sure, it's there, but do you really want to spend the effort of doing so when it's just that boring? You have this freeform, expansive, open world game with lusciously beautiful graphics and an amazing, albeit glitchy, movement mechanics that allow you to explore anywhere on the map, and the developers force you in this linear pathway in fear of breaking the game too much. Avatar Frontier Pandora would have been, at the very least, a fun experience if I'm allowed to explore wherever I wanted. Hell, you could do that with the previous Far Cry games. It's not advised due to the difficult spike, but let me explore and take on that challenge regardless. I'm not kidding when I say the text box that shows up anytime you want to explore something ruins the pacing of the game. It gets even worse when you're in exploration mode, and yes, there's an exploration difficulty that should disable the barriers and allow me to, explore the game. It doesn't. It just teleports me back to the home base every time I go out of bounds. All the exploration does is disable the waypoint to the quest that you do, which can be a hindrance if where you're supposed to be is actually where you're going, but because you didn't trigger a cutscene or a waypoint or a trigger, you're supposed to be here, touching this grass before talking to your best friend. It's a shame that this gigantic metaphorical and literal invisible barrier is implemented, because outside the no fun zone is a fun zone. I'm enjoying exploring the world of Pandora. This game is arguably the most beautiful looking game this generation. The hunts you do, the materials you can gather, level up with, Ubisoft towers. Oh shit, this is just a watered down Far Cry. I guess the story is unique, the characters are pretty cute and charming, but with such a linear journey in an exploration game, this game would require some damn good writing, not just okay in order for me to be invested in it. God of Rock, aka the opposite of Hi-Fi Rush. I like rhythm games, and I like fighting games. Let's mix them up together to produce this, what the f***. Sure, fighting games and rhythm games are two of my favorite genres, but so is listening to Taylor Swift and Lamb of God. That doesn't mean I think she could pull off a death metal growl or anything. It's a shame that this game didn't live up to its potential because, for one, the music is amazing. Every song in this game sounds rhythmically enticing, and pressing the buttons in time to set music, if the charting was any good, feels great to play. This game is not optimized for controller whatsoever, nor does it have the proper highway map. Okay, discussing the highway is gonna take forever to discuss why it's important, but to put it on layman's terms, being on either player 1 or player 2 can mess up the perception. The speed is also difficult depending on how slow or fast it is, and the button placements are in the standard vertical line, but because the face buttons are a diamond shape, this looks awkward as hell. Which thankfully can be changed to how you customize the specific button prompts. You could even use the right bumper if you want, but this leads to my main issue being this game is too easy on arcade stick. Balance is everything, but when you have every button available in the layout, it's sort of hard not to abuse it. There's really no sweet spot for those who prefer one controller over the other. You're always at an advantage if you have a better controller. At least with other fighting games, you can make an argument that pad versus stick is actually close in terms of balance. Otherwise, the charting for each song is fine. The character designs are cool, some are kind of weird, but otherwise charming in their own ways. And again, the music is stellar. This is one of the only bad games that I could see potentially being good, but the way the game is executed could be improved for more accessible controls and better special inputs. Like, oh my god, why in any fighting game should I press up for a fireball input? This game does have a great idea, and I can imagine with updates or a sequel, this game can be pretty good. I'm just hoping to see that day come, because right now, this is pretty disappointing. Now, admittedly, I do not like picking easy targets. I could have filled this list with games like Madden 24, NBA 2K24, and FIFA 24, which is no longer called FIFA, it's called FC 24. I didn't want to get repetitive. In fact, I'll just straight up say that the previous 3 entries could have easily been taken out by these EA and 2K sports titles. I didn't bother because it'd just be repeating the same thing. This is an annualized sports game that's somehow inferior to its previous predecessors, and nothing will match up to Madden 2005's legacy. That said, I wouldn't call every sports game title bad. MLB was pretty good, and PGA Tour is still on the running. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that I played this game after the best list, F1 2023 might as well be the unofficial 4-way tie for the best list in those racing games. I'm sorry if my bias for racing games are showing. I just love this genre. But the worst of the worst when it comes to these annualized yearly sports games is the one that I spend the most time with and felt nothing worth value playing through. Although calling this a sports game is kind of stretching, considering how fake it is. WWE 2K23 is easily the worst out of these yearly releases because it's a genre I actually enjoy. Wrestling, sure, it's fake, but who cares? So is my YouTube persona.
Wait, you mean to tell me that what I say is an overreaction, and while there are some things that can be linked to my personal opinions, it's not 100% the case as it's for entertainment purposes rather than actual criticism? When did I change my shirt?
So how did they make a wrestling feel so lifeless, so displeased, and so void of anything? Did I just buy an Xbox 360 copy without noticing? This is not different from other sports games, but for WWE specifically, it is easily the worst looking. This is the next generation WWE game, and it looks no better than Avatar for the PS3. This game just looks awful, and that's my main reasoning. Yeah, that's really it. The game just looks awfully terrible. Yet the gameplay, albeit more complicated than it needs to be, is still that same wrestling fun. The story for this game is kinda cute too, honoring John Cena's legacy to WWE. And while the other story mode is kinda cringy, it does set up for some interesting relationship and drama. The game just looks ugly as sin, like holy crap, only a mother could love that face. Is it really fair to solely put WWE on the worst list just for the graphics alone? Well, for me, yes, because we got at least 16 more games worth down the sewage line. WWE got it easy for now. You're lucky your worst is just looking like a PlayStation 3 title.
Also, I forgot to mention this during the actual recording. The game crashes a lot. There's multiple different glitches that's gonna be real annoying to deal with. And microtransactions. It still doesn't change the placement of this entry. I just felt like I should note that.
I will fully admit to this and say that Dead Island 2 is easily the best Dead Island game in the franchise. But that's because the previous games are unholy pieces of shit. Alright, so some positives about the game. It has wave dashing. Yeah, I'm serious. This game has movement tech that's kind of funny to exploit, even at the price of contorting my fingers to unholy abominations.
I'm pretty sure I just grew 6 fingers.
But that alone is not enough to justify the flanderized characterizations of each playable character, with little to no difference between any of them. Furthermore, the lack of single-player fun, as most of the time, all of these environments are made for multiplayer. And above all, the easy as hell to kill zombies. Seriously, these are the main threats of the game. Either make it a challenge, or make it like Dead Rising where the amount of kills you get rack up. The game does take a more silly approach to the zombie surrounding island, and I could respect that. Hang on, why is this even called Dead Island? This game takes place in Los Angeles. I don't know what else to say. This game is fine, but not fun. It does the bare minimum it requires for it to be a zombie slasher game, but just like the post-Natsume Harvest Moon games, just because you did the bare minimum doesn't mean you can't do any better. Oh yeah, speaking of which...
Wait, that segues too soon? Holy f***, why do my jokes never align to my actual opinions?
Holy shit, the series is still ongoing? I wasn't really going to pay too much attention to this game until a friend of mine said that this series actually got better and better, and now that I have this game on my hands, I could easily say... Jason, what the fuck are you been smoking? Okay, so to be fair, my last game was Neptunia Mark II, or more so the remake, Rebirth 2, so in terms of improvements, this looks exactly the fucking same. Okay, maybe the grass looks slightly more No, this looks exactly like 10 years ago. The gameplay definitely changed up a lot, going for a more action-based RPG than a turn-based one. But really though, this game should have been an anime instead because it has so much unvoiced dialogue. If they get the budget for it, they could have probably made this game more entertaining. That might be the most improved out of the older games. The voice acting's improved even if most of the characters got replaced. The annoying characters that grinded my Game Gear has pretty much been solved. Mostly because none of the actual main characters make an appearance as playable characters. You play as Neptunia's sister, and she is an infinitely better waifu than Nip Nip. And the other party members aren't bad too. Maybe Ram could be a little too cuddly for my taste, but Blackheart's sister is definitely a nice addition. They improved the character design, and all they had to do was get rid of the old characters. That said, just because I said some positive things doesn't make this game good. The story is just awful. There's an epidemic going on where Apple iPhones are taking over the world and the world shares it in balance. But they also use these iPhone equivalent devices to do most of their daily activities, so what's the message here? On top of that, there's this plot about a mysterious girl who knows her main character. This plotline might be interesting if the game wasn't padded with the same boring and monotonous gameplay. Do the same combo into a tag team finisher, rinse and repeat, maybe transform just to make things a little bit faster. All the while, the subtitles come in your way, unvoiced, so it's not like you can understand what they're saying if my eyes are darting between the subtitles and the combat. I get that this is somewhat of a normal occurrence for JRPGs, but if you're gonna make the gameplay the same, at least put some twist into it and make the story more engaging. Otherwise, my attention span has halted and I stopped playing after 10 hours. Oh man, I'm really pissing off a lot of anime fans today, aren't I? One Piece Odyssey is a baby version of turn-based RPGs. This is another repetitive, boring turn-based RPG that is just way too easy for my liking. The game is practically railroaded linear-wise. You could explore a little bit outside of the pathway, but at best, you'll probably get an item that you could purchase easily, or at worst, there is literally nothing because the game designers don't like to reward you for exploration. This game also looks plasticky. I want to say it's supposed to look cel-shaded, but they didn't really go all the way with it. The character models kind of have that same Bandai Namco anime stank, where the animation is tied to 3D models, but the art style tries too hard to be 2D animation, and the only time they successfully did is if Arc System Works is in the way. And if I have to be honest, I think it's because I'm not a fan of this art style. I've seen One Piece in casual viewings and images, and I'm sorry, I don't like this art style. They did perfectly replicate the art style to the best of its abilities, but shining a shinier turd still makes it a turd. I will say this one thing, this feels like a game that One Piece fans who follow the story might actually enjoy, because I'm sure if I was a One Piece fan, I would understand the references and moments during the story. But as someone who's never watched a single episode, I'm more confused than anything. This is not a good game to get into a series. You're honestly much better watching the actual show instead. And if you want to play the game for the JRPG experience, you're going to be left disappointed due to the lack of challenge. In terms of the post-Natsume Harvest Moon games, Winds of Anthos is easily the best Harvest Moon game in the series post-acquisition, which is even more pathetic when it's on the worst list. What is the first thing you think of when you play Harvest Moon? Farming? Social links? Well, it has that, but it's not the main focus. Farming is pretty much taking a backseat since the way you obtain seeds is absolutely free. So there's no challenge if all you can do is talk to random Sprixies and they'll just give you a tomato seed for free. This game being an open world actively hinders the experience since you're no longer focused on your cozy little farm that you can expand as time progresses. Instead, you're moving house to house, changing your farm depending on where you're sleeping at night. If this game wants to expand the farming business to multiple conglomerates, then why is it that the only available worker is the CEO? You can't hire people or pay them to work at your farm. You can't even have the Sprixies help you like the older games, but that's because you don't need to farm in this game to even progress through the game. Sure, maybe some crops or some miscellaneous random items you find in the overworld, but what you need to grow and gather isn't exactly convenient to what you need. And the story is just, I mean, it's basic, I guess. You're trying to unite all the fairies of the world in order to combat an evil volcanic eruption, and to do that, you need to free the inhabitants of 4 different countries. And at that point, am I playing Harvest Moon or a JRPG? All these mechanics are not needed to develop a basic balls farming game. Just give me a farm and some husbandos and waifus to marry, and that's all you need to keep a consistent feel. Harvest Moon has turned into some mutated monster that lost all of its identity, which is why until the series gets a grip and starts acting like a farming game, Story of Seasons is just a way superior farming game in every way. I don't know what I expected. This game is rather faithful to the source material, and that's not a good thing. Peppa Pig is not a good kids show. It's not charming, it's not funny, the characters are annoying, and the ideas of education is the equivalent of eating glue, which is what I feel like doing after playing this game. Seriously, if you have kids, your child deserves better than this. He, she, or they won't know the true wonders of gaming if you don't give them a copy of Wonder. Give them any other game. They'll develop motor skills, timing, creative puzzle solving, actual puzzle solving. That shit is a lot more educational than knowing that pizza is in fact an Italian cuisine. Normally, I wouldn't mind ignoring this game's existence entirely, but what threw me off the edge was playing a soccer game at the beach and not getting that achievement when I did. This game is buggy apparently, so that alone makes it the worst games of this year. The fact it's not even functional. If I had to at least give a minor alternative or a honorable mentions, Bluey is a similar design game except it has actual movement options and it's a lot more funnier. Probably not worth the $50, but if you get this on a sale, then I'm pretty sure your child will enjoy this way more. Or at the very least, your child deserves to know what actual entertainment is. The amount of hand-holding the game gives you, the amount of waiting you have to get through for the stealth sections, the lack of punishment when you fuck up. I mean, at least give me some funny dialogue when I do mess up. I get that it's a kid's game, but that's not an excuse to make the game so boring. You can still make a game that's enjoyable for everyone. Everyone! You know, the likes of what the box art says. You get story elements as to what happens to your father as the game progresses, but these seem to go nowhere aside from just Pikachu having a Vietnam flashback. The graphics, oh my god, I didn't want to mention how plasticky the game feels. The character models, the Pokemons themselves, even their rendered dialogue boxes, like, what the hell is this? Is Pikachu trying to take a shit? And the music, oh my god, the music are actually pretty good bangers. Honestly, that's like the one thing I can say about this game that I like. Someone was super passionate when creating the music for this game, and it feels too good to include it. So good on you, composer. You prevented this game from getting any lower than it already is. But that's not even the worst of it. What's worse than one Pokemon game this year? How about two, baby? This game is by far the absolute worst Pokemon game I have ever played. Imagine a game where you do not play the game. Why would I play this game? Well, the novelty of leveling up while snoring your hours off is cute, until you actually hit a grind wall. The gameplay immediately dies down as soon as you are required to sleep an ungodly amount of time, all the while getting lucky with the Pokemon RNG and the item RNG because god forbid I spend real life money to feed my fucking Slowpoke for more biscuits, and that's even if the sleeping mechanic actually worked. God forbid you live next to nosy neighbors or an apartment or if the fan is running, because this thing does not calculate the first 2 hours of my actual sleep. The game does not work. And when it does work, you realize you are literally doing nothing. You're just sleeping, wasting the batteries of your phone. It made resting up for the night after a long day's work an actual chore, and at this point, if I'm costing my own physical health just to potentially find a Cubone in the wild, someone will actually become a skeleton by the end of this session. Look, the sexy robot waifus can only get you so far in terms of actual content. They don't even appear that often, just 2 cutscenes. Waifu bias should not be a substitute for good content.
What the f***? This tastes like ass!
Atomic Heart is trying to be Russian Bioshock without the care or philosophy or even storytelling. Your main character does not give a shit about the thing that's surrounding him. He is constantly stone-faced pissed. He hates his robot companion, he doesn't care about the innocent lives of its citizens, he's just an asshole! What's the point of caring what's around me if my main character is not even invested in the world around him? The only thing he cares about is his boss, who may or may not be the bad guy all along. Okay, well, the story is crap, but what about the gameplay? It's fine, I guess. It's a standard first-person shooter with some emphasis on melee combat and magic biotech mechanics. The combat functions, but the level design is just atrocious. This isn't necessarily a linear-based game since most of the areas you visit can be revisited, for better or for worse, since you'll get easily lost going back and forth the same corridor, fighting the same respawning enemies, and wasting your resources in the process. The game is cluttered and bloated, and it tries to be this fancy cuisine despite being served at McDonald's, and that's the perfect description that I could say for this game. Philosophically overblown. Oh my god, Nintendo had 3 bad games this year? All in the top 20? Everybody want to Switch, a sequel to Nintendo's worst published title. Hey, maybe Nintendo thinks there's something to salvage from an airplane crash. Ooh, there's a Hello Kitty sticker on the floor.
Oh, sell it for $50!
Unfortunately, believe it or not, this is somehow worse than the original. I'm not kidding. Worse than the Not Pack and Tech demo, because at least the original Want to Switch, being a tech demo, showed off the tech of the Joy-Cons. The minigames that you play amount to nothing more than shaking your Joy-Con to the beat of a jump rope or an ancient ritual alien summoning, or even trivia with a simple button press. Nothing about the Joy-Con's IR sensor, HD rumble, hell, even gyroscope matters, since most if not all of the minigames just require simple shakes. Everybody Want to Switch is just another bland party game you can set up at the dinner table. Hide and seek? Yeah, I could do that in my backyard, just mind the arrows. What the hell was that? You don't even get to pick your minigame. The only mode, and I mean the only mode you can play in this party mode, is relegated to randomly selected minigames. No practice mode. That's right, no practice mode, meaning no choice if you want to practice on said minigame, though the roulette you spin on is relatively easy to time. They're still randomly generated from 4 selected minigames, and it baffles me that Nintendo made a sequel to the game that somehow made it worse in every way. God damn it, Nintendo! Get your priorities straight! You're supposed to be a good company, unlike Activision! Yeah, I know, I reused the same character art as I did last year, but I do not feel like putting up the effort of drawing art or even hiring an artist for Captain Price to slightly tilt 45 degrees, since this game doesn't put that effort as well. If you watch my last year's best list, I put Modern Warfare 2 on my top 10 best list of 2022, and I still stand by that. The campaign was absolutely fun, and the multiplayer harkens back to what made Call of Duty fun back in the 360 days. Warzone's kinda stupid though. So to see how the following sequel follows up to the fantastic and diverse gameplay of the campaign mode and the gripping tension of the story, it falls flatter than the ass chase of Soap's booty. This is not a proper follow-up, it's a 5-hour long DLC expansion sold for $70. It's not even a good 5-hour expansion. They brought loot box mechanics in the single-player campaign. Why? This removes so much of the creative ways to plow through the mission and makes literally every mission guns a-blazing. Call of Duty in the past had missions that restrict your playstyle, so you have more creative ways to beat the mission, such as stealthing your way or even specific mission goals like blending in. Every mission has been relegated to just shooting the enemy to progress. Even if you are told specifically to go stealthy, yeah, it doesn't matter. Call of Duty be Call of Duty and dumb down gameplay for Monkey Brain cause herder! Also, the 2 bad guys in the previous game that died somehow came back to life, with no explanation on how they survived, let alone no scars other than...
Heard you died in a tank in South America.
Well, I wasn't in that tank.
Nani?
But let's not forget the most disappointing build-up that they teased in the previous game. No Russian. It got replaced by a bombing of an airplane jacking. The thing is, this would have actually been a dramatic moment if it didn't replace the No Russian segment. This is the equivalent of making a documentary of 9/11 and just showing the rerun of the Titanic. You do not portray an iconic, horrific scene with a completely different scene that also doesn't matter in the story in the long run because the next mission objective is to delete the footage pertaining to it? What? What's the point of including it in the first place? Overall, Modern Warfare 3 is just about the same quality of the original Modern Warfare 3. Overly exaggerated, I know, but it's funny how the worst Modern Warfare for both series is the 3rd game of the entry. However, I much prefer playing the 360 port because as bad as that game is, at least it concluded the story. Modern Warfare 3 on PS5 still leaves you on a cliffhanger. What the fuck are you gonna do after a shitty story like that? This game, if we're following just for the story alone, deserves to be way higher than it is right now, but the multiplayer was kind of fun, and I hate that this is just proving Activision's point. They focus too much on the multiplayer mode that they gimp the campaign mode. You know you can have both cakes and eat it too, right? You can still have an enjoyable story and good multiplayer at the same time. Your previous game has proven that. At this point, just delay the fucking game. It's funny looking back how I was completely pissed at Black Ops 4 for not including a campaign mode, but I think I was misunderstood. I'd honestly rather have no campaign mode than a shitty one. At least that way I can save my $70 on a better single player experience. I gave this game a 4 out of 10 on my review, and if I have to be honest, I should have been more harsher on the game. The characters are all unengaged to the overall plot. The dialogue is so cringe-induced that it made me switch to the Japanese dub just to ignore this horrendous writing. The gameplay is nothing more than a third-person shooter disguised as an RPG with little to no variety in terms of combat or planning. The music, its only saving grace, barely ever shows its composition until the final act. There's only 10 music tracks for this RPG, and some of them are the same battle theme, so even if it sounds good, all I can think is da 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 da. I've already made a 40-minute review of this game, and I dare not repeat my experience. If you want more information and a deconstruction on why this game is bad, just watch that video instead. Single-player games that require online services are a load of garbage, and Redfall is no exception. I don't think this game is even fun with multiplayer because the enemies are already brain-dead easy to beat through exploits and glitches. Do you think making the game easier would make it better? This game is an empty field of nothing. There is stuff you can do, but none of it matters because of the waypoint of your destination. When you do get off to the bean pathway, you realize that you're doing the exact same thing you've been doing in the campaign mode, killing vampires and occasional terrorists. You think that at the very least the vampires have their own unique designs or forms to differentiate from the combat, but no, just blast them with bullets over and over until they die and you're good to go. There are multiple different characters with different and unique abilities. I think one runs faster or something. Yeah, I didn't get into the game that much. Not helping is the fact that the game is locked at 30 FPS when I played it. I got an update that eventually uncaps it to 60, but the damage is already too late. With other games that intrigue my attention, Redfall is just another boring FPS that provides no replay value, and it's online only for some reason, so that makes it even worse than I described it. You may have assumed that I'm not going to pick this game because I didn't play it. But you may have also noticed, I specified I didn't play the game by the time I scripted this video. Skull Island Rise of the Kong, Blood Bowl 3, Golem. Yeah, I didn't play these games at the time I scripted these. I played the game after I scripted the intro. Yeah, this is the one game I purposely played just to expand the list, and honestly, I thought I expected worse. I mean, number 4 on the worst list is still pretty bad, but this should be a testament towards my expectations. If this is publicly the worst game of all time, minus that one game in December that people forgot about, and it still made it to number 4, you know I played worse. I was expecting something along the lines of Ride to Hell Retribution or Superman 64 or f***ing Mindjack. This is just another boring platformer with muddy visuals. In terms of glitches, there was this one section where I died in the middle of a cutscene, some audio and visual glitches, frame rate drops despite being on performance mode. This is just a run-of-the-mill bad game with no substance because when the game does work, it's nothing more than a linear fetch quest. The mechanics of debating with Golem versus Smeagol is interesting, but in the end, it ultimately doesn't change anything besides minor Easter eggs. There was also this one moment where the game wants me to press the A button on all the dialogue choices. Okay, well, so much for freedom of choice when the game bugs out like this. Honestly, I feel like the worst sin for this game is that even when the game works, there's nothing worthwhile. You could be playing so many other games instead of this one, and instead, at least if you're gonna make a bad game, make it entertainingly bad. This is such a non-game, it hurts. The amount of quote-unquote content that is present within the adventures is the equivalent of playing with a water faucet.
3 more hours of this and I unlock the bathroom ending!
So what's the gameplay of Barbie's Dreamhouse Adventures? You get to put characters in locations of your choosing. You get to put some items that may or may not be interactable. Holy shit, it's exactly like playing a dollhouse. Why not just do that instead? Barbie's Dreamhouse is a virtual dollhouse that you can barely interact with at 5 frames per second. Yeah, it's not even optimized for how ugly the game looks. At least with a physical dream house, albeit overpriced as hell. Wait a minute! $300? Is that why this game is selling for $50? Like, girls, y'all know you're getting ripped off, right? You can still, interact with it. Oh cool, I get to watch Barbie take a shower. That's exciting! Wait a minute, I just realized, why are there 2 showers next to each other? Are you expecting to shower with a friend? Oh my god, is this dollhouse just one gigantic hallway? Imagine the excruciating walk time. You're in your bedroom, but you need to take a shit, but because there's only one bathroom with 2 toilets, that's located on the 2nd floor in a household that apparently fits 14 people, what the fuck kind of dollhouse is this? Oh my god, even when there is no gameplay, they're somehow fucked up the level design. That's more impressive than anything. Yeah, this is an easy pick for horrendous games this year. I bought this game on a sale for $10, and I still feel ripped off. But hey, at least I can play Megalovania on the music editor feature. It sounds like ass. This game had so much potential. This could have been the Avatar equivalent to Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, but instead, it's an abridged sitcom without the charm, the humor, or anything that respects the original source material. This is easily the buggiest game that I've ever played. You could sequence break, which doesn't even matter because you're still relegated by the objective. Your partner AI is just, please, is there something wrong? Do you need therapy? Please stop hurting yourself. Or you could just teleport from one section to another because Sokka decided that he wants to smoke pipes instead of help his girlfriend! And the voice acting, oh my god, the voice acting. They didn't even bother hiring the old voice actors, so they got replacements for everyone. I mean, I get because the original voice actor got older and General Iroh's actor is dead, but they couldn't even get a sound alike. Zuko doesn't sound anywhere near Dante Bosco's inflections. The waterbenders sound like Emperor Island actors, and Azula is actually the only one that got a good replacement for. So, good job, Azula's actress. You're not the worst. The acting is not even the worst part of the game. It's the boss fights. Oh man, I had to fight Zuko for the 50th time? How original! Oh, you're gonna give me a brand new character? Underleveled for this new boss fight that I have no experience or training over because this is literally the first time I'm playing as a Kyoshi warrior? So much of this game is so wrong that it actually offends me. Why is it so hard to make an Avatar game that's faithful towards the source material? The Legend of Korra video game sucks, the Burning Earth sucks, these puzzles that even when you solve the level sucks when you're stuck because of a bug that it sucks, it just sucks, it all sucks! I've mentioned before that nostalgia can play a heavy bias towards my ranking, and I fully admit I'm no perfect being, but nostalgia can go both ways regardless if you like or dislike a product. If you like something from your childhood, it can enhance the experience, but when you dislike something from the same childhood, it is a catastrophic failure. And Avatar: The Last Airbender Quest for Balance did not tip the scales at all. Everything about this game is horrible, and it is easily my all-time worst game of 2023. That is, until...
Here we go. Finally here. Performing for you. If you know the words.
So this game is a very much last-minute addition, but the concept, the backstory, and the overall production of this NFT-driven game, yeah, I don't think I need to play this game to know how much of a horrible idea this game is. Just as much as I know what water does to your body.
What the f? That's wet?
The gameplay, and by default the overall idea of what you're doing, is quite literally shit. You are one of the Bored Apes character and your goal is to rush your way to the nearest toilet in a temple run style. Your goal is to take a shit. How's that progress on that bathroom ending? Well, maybe you like Temple Run, so at the very least, if it's a free-to-play game, there is no downside to trying it out. It takes $3,000 to play a level. And that's just one level! Dookie Dash has an NFT pass system where each level is tied behind a paywall that the NFT holder can place. One in particular being over $1 million. $1 million for this? No game in the world should ever cost that much money, let alone one fucking level. Yeah, that's right, just one level. You thought that you'd get the entire game? No! These fuckers think that every single level is its own individual game. Should I change this top 20 video to include 20 levels of Dookie Dash? As soon as I discovered this game's existence, and as soon as I knew this game was released in 2023, no game can top this as the worst of the worst. Even the so-called general audience saying that the day before is considered the worst of the worst. Nuh-uh, you clearly missed Dookie Dash. $70 looks like a steal if you compare it to a Flash game for $3,000. There are debates where if you didn't play it, you can't have an opinion on it, and I was one of the people that thought that was justifiable. Dookie Dash changed my perception by a long shot that a game can be horrendous without even touching it. Legit. Fuck this game, and fuck the people who still support these NFT scams, because you deserve your money stolen if you think this is a good investment. And they're remastering this game this year too. You thought The Last of Us was done for remastering the same game, but Dookie Dash couldn't even last a year.
Well, that was a huge downer for 2023. The bad thing about accepting the good is that accepting the bad just feels twice as worse. If only they made at least 20 good games that year, then it wouldn't be such a crapshoot of a year. If only someone would make one! Most of my bad games, I feel, are predictable, especially when you hit the top 10, but let's broaden our horizons a bit and actually take account the astounding amount of games that actually released on 2023. Yes, there are bad games, but that's the natural life of the video game market. Of course there won't be things we enjoy, but that doesn't define all that gaming has to offer. If there's anything that 2023 has taught me, is that even at the present, there will always be games in the past as we continue on through the life. I imagine I'm still gonna be playing through 2023's games since there's just that many and I'm not running out of options anytime soon. And when I start to run out of those games, they're still gonna be 2024 games, 2025 games, any games in the future, and even if I don't get any excitement from that, we always have the past to deal with. 2022, 2021, there's probably still a lot of games I'm missing from 2020's list. That's the beauty of the video game landscape. As long as we preserve them, they'll still be here with us. Unless it's a live service game, in which case, suckers, you can't be played for shit.